Well, hello there, and konnichiwa. It's Jim and Carrie, and this is the best trip ever. And we have just gotten back from Tokyo Disneyland Resort.
Yep, we've been there before, but I got an itch to go back. So we took a long weekend and we flew over to Tokyo for 4 days.
In January, I went to Tokyo for some business, and I ended up stopping by Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea, which I love. And I had such a good time, and Carrie saw my pictures on Facebook. You can see them at The Best Trip Ever or on Twitter at The Best Trip Ever. And she saw the pictures. She loved it so much. She was like, we got to go, and we got to go now.
Yep, I got a wild hair, and the next thing we knew, 5 weeks later, Jim was back in Tokyo and back at Tokyo Disney Resort.
And I don't mind. I love Tokyo Disney Resort. I especially love Tokyo Disney Sea, and I just love being in Japan. It's such a fun, creative place. Very respectful. I love so much about Japan, so I was very happy to go back, and we were lucky to go back during the 35th anniversary celebration.
Yeah, that started on April 15th, 2018, and is running through March 25th, 2019. So we just caught the tail end of it, but that was a lot of fun because I'm always a sucker for everything commemorative. So if it's dated, I'm going to buy it.
I remember being a kid and going to the 35th anniversary of Disneyland, so that kind of made me want to go to this. And we'll touch on some of the 35th anniversary events and things that they did, but we'll also generally talk about Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea and give you some advice. So if you're watching this or listening to this outside of the 35th anniversary, don't worry, we'll still have plenty of relevant information.
Yeah, and that's the best thing to just keep in mind is that, there's always something going on at Tokyo Disney Resort. You could be there for springtime. They do an Easter celebration. They do Halloween like I've never seen. The last time I had been there was in September 2017, and it was during Halloween season. And it's the one time of the year for the months of September and October that they actually allow adults to dress up in costumes. And I have never seen anything like it. So if you really want a treat, go during Halloween period of time over that 8 weeks.
Yeah, we literally saw little kids going up to cosplayers, other guests at the park, and getting pictures taken with them. There were some girls, some women, young women dressed up as princesses, and they were cosplaying as Disney princesses, and some of the little kids who were guests at the park went up to them thinking they were cast members and took pictures, and some of the costumes are amazing.
Yeah, I think my favorite was when we saw, I think it was Donald and Daisy Duck in steampunk. And to this day, I will never understand how they were able to be in these full-on costumes like you would see a cast member in. And it was like 90 degrees at that time period. But anyway, that just gives you an idea that there's always a celebration going on at Tokyo Disney Resort. We just happened to be there during the tail end of the 35th celebration, but also going into the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Not only cherry blossoms, but there could be a new ride like, say, Soarin' or the new Beauty and the Beast land. There's Frozen. There's all kinds of things, like I said, always happening at the Tokyo Disney Resort. So keep that in mind. No matter when you go, chances are there'll be something new or some cool promotion or some special time of the year.
Yeah, when I told people we were just going to pop over for a quick weekend, they thought we were crazy, of course. But then again, we live in Seattle, so we have the best gateway to the Pacific Rim. For us on a nonstop, it's only 8.5 hours from Seattle to Narita. Frankly, we've had flights to Orlando with a connection that I think have taken even longer sometimes with a headwind. So for us, we got on the plane, and the next thing we knew, we were in Narita at the airport and ready to go to the parks.
And it's pretty easy to go to the parks. When you take the exit out of Customs, out of Narita, right across the way there in the concourse, you'll see a help desk. They're selling tickets. You ask about Tokyo Disney Sea, they'll direct you to the correct person, and you can buy your limousine bus trip ticket to Tokyo Disney Resort.
Yeah, they'll ask you which hotel that you're staying at on property. They'll give you the time, and the bus, frankly, came about every 20 minutes at the set time. You go outside, you queue up with your ticket, and it was about the equivalent of about $18 per person one way. You could take the train, but I decided it'd be easier to just go door to door since we had our luggage, and we were kind of tired after the flight.
Yeah, the trains are really easy too. Just ask for an English map, and you'll be able to see how it all works between the subways and the JR lines and what have you. It's pretty easy if you get an English map, so don't be afraid of the trains. Give it a shot. It's pretty straightforward. But on to the resort. Speaking of trains, there is a monorail at the Tokyo Disneyland Resort, but it's part of the JR line. So you do buy a ticket. Unlike, say, you go to Orlando or Anaheim, where you just get on the monorail. You do need to buy a ticket, but since it's part of the JR line, it's very affordable.
Yeah, and I would recommend if you're there for multiple days, just buy the multi-day pass because you're going to be on and off. And even when you're going from park to park, you have to take the monorail between it. It has 4 stops. It has Bayside, which is where the Good Neighbor hotels are located. The next stop would be Tokyo Disney Sea. The following stop is their equivalent of downtown Disney. And then the last stop is for Tokyo Disneyland. So if you're planning on going from basically anywhere on Disney property, you're going to need that monorail pass. So just buy it for the length of your stay and it'll be much easier.
It's also the coolest monorail because it has Mickey windows and Mickey handles to hold on to, and always lots of stickers and decorations depending on the time of the year. So you do have to pay for it, but trust me, you'll enjoy it. It's super convenient, very efficient, and it's really kind of a highlight of the trip.
Yeah, I don't think they could get away with having that monorail in the U.S. because I have a feeling people probably try to steal the handles, but it's the exact same monorail that they actually have at Hong Kong Disneyland. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a great place to do a bunch of selfies with your head in the middle of the Mickey windows.
Who doesn't love selfies?
You love them.
So let's talk about Tokyo Disneyland. It's the second oldest Disneyland, the 35th anniversary. So does that make it 1984?
I believe it does, definitely, unless it was from 1983. Well, let's see. I have to see if it started in 2018.
No, it's 83.
Oh, 83,
It
yeah.
was 83,
So,
yeah. I thought that was wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a lot of it that I love about Tokyo Disneyland is that it's got a certain retro charm to it. I love the Tomorrowland, that it still resembles original Tomorrowland. They've redone some rides. They have Buzz Lightyear, and they have the new Star Tours, obviously, and some other things, but the buildings still look retro, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's definitely the best Tomorrowland because it looks like you just stepped out of the original Tomorrowland vibe. And I hope they don't change that because it's great for photo taking. Of course, it's similar to your traditional Disneyland that you come in on what every place else would be Main Street, but there they actually call it the World Bazaar, and it has a big cover over it.
Yeah, and it's similar to Main Street, but instead of just going one way up and down toward or away from the park, it's got a cross street.
Yeah, which is great because it lets you cut over to other parts of the park right away or kind of even a back way to Tomorrowland. But if you do head straight through the World Bazaar, of course, there's the iconic partner statue, and then, of course, the oh-so-beautiful castle behind it off in the distance.
And it's Cinderella's castle. It's tall. It's primarily pink. It's got very dramatic spires and spirals, and it's a very distinctive castle.
Yeah, it's got a lot more turrets than you typically would find on the castles. And I also like it because it's one of the few that you can kind of do a 360 view of, kind of like Shanghai, that you can see different views of it, and you can go all the way around it at some point in the park.
And because it's the second oldest Disneyland park, it has the spoke and wheel design that, of course, Disney made famous, where there's Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, and instead of Frontierland, they have Westernland.
Which is a heck of a lot of fun, but they also have Critter Country. Granted, it's very small with just a few items in there, but it's very similar. It's going to feel familiar if you've been to Disneyland, but it's going to feel a little bit off. Like you notice a few things, but you don't know exactly where you're going because it doesn't shoot off where you're cutting through the castle. You actually have to go around the castle in most cases to get from point A to point B. So don't think that you're going to head straight through and go right back to Fantasyland because you'll need to actually go around the castle to get to Fantasyland.
And there's also Adventureland, which is very large, and again, the layout is not exact like Carrie says, but it's sort of like you go from Anaheim to Orlando, where it's like you feel like you've been there before, you kind of know, but it's got a lot of differences. What are some of your highlights of Tokyo Disneyland?
I think of Tokyo Disneyland, some of the things I liked the best were the things that were kind of different, that were kind of a surprise to me. I actually like the railroad, and unlike the railroad in, say, California at Disneyland, where it goes all the way around the park, this one just goes around through Adventureland, but it's got great audio animatronics, and it took up a good half an hour. It goes right behind Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, so you got some great vantage points of the actual attraction. Another thing that I loved is, I would say it's probably my number 2, Space Mountain, surprisingly. It's really smooth smooth. It's not a head shaker. So I gave that one a really high rating. And of course, with the recently renovated It's a Small World, which is my fan favorite to this day. I know everybody cringes and groans about the theme song, but it is my favorite. And I think it has the most beautiful design on the inside of the attraction in the queue.
Yeah, it's got a really nice loading area with lots of pastels and different characters and different murals in the area. Yeah, it's really put you in a nice mood before you go on your voyage. And as you mentioned, they've just renovated it. They've added a bunch of Disney characters. Like, for example, you see the characters from Frozen when you first approach, and it seems like different areas have the appropriate character for each country.
Yeah, if you're looking at like the South Pacific, Lilo and Stitch are on a surfboard. If you're looking at Australia, you've got Nemo and friends are there. So as they've done in a couple of, nods in different parks, they've done a really nice job, and the colors are so bright and vibrant. Really great for photo taking.
One ride that surprised me was Snow White's Scary Adventure. And I've been on that, I don't know how many times. But in Japan, I swear that it's longer, and I swear that the sets are more detailed, and it's just a better ride, which it's kind of a throwaway kids ride in my mind. But when I rode it, I was like, oh wow, this one's it's much better in Japan.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it. The funny part is I can't understand when they were doing the audio on it. I swear they were using a pirate voice, which we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, as you're in line, they're giving you instructions. It sounds like the guy from either like Pirates of the Caribbean for Snow White's Scary Adventure, which was kind of odd, but oh well, to each his own. Another ride that I really enjoyed, that you also enjoy, is the Monsters Incorporated Ride and Go Seek.
That is my favorite one of those kind of interactive rides. If you've been on, say, Buzz Lightyear, the only difference is it doesn't calculate your points. So you're riding around and you are using your flashlight, which is kind of your little weapon, to highlight each of the Monsters Incorporated hard helmets. And then different characters pop out. But I could do that all day, and of course it takes your picture. Don't understand why they take the picture in the location that they did, because unless you know it's coming and you get the worst pictures ever. We didn't get good ones there.
No, but as Carrie mentioned, it's sort of a shooting light ride, but to be honest, it's so detailed and it follows the first Monsters Incorporated movie so faithfully that sometimes I find myself not even wanting to play. I just want to look at all the set pieces and all the audio animatronics, because they did such a good job, and it's not in any other park in the world, and it's delightful.
Yeah, and it's so well done. And like Jim said, it really does take great respect to the original Monsters Incorporated movie. So if you're a fan of Monsters, I would hightail it there or go get a Fast Pass immediately for that.
And if you get a Fast Pass, the machines giggle because you need the laugh floor. And when you go into the main building, when you're still in the queue, it looks like the entrance. It's a huge dome, just like the power company where Mike and Sully were.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I'm sure that we missed 100 little details that are up on the ceiling. They've got a gorgeous mural, but it's so detailed, and you're not in the queue long enough when you're there on a Fast Pass to get to pay attention to all of it. But that one probably hands down, is the most unique, because there's no other place that has that ride to date.
Another unique ride that's at Tokyo Disneyland is Winnie the Pooh. Now, if you've ridden the one either in Orlando or in Anaheim, those are just very basic rides with flat set pieces and not many animatronics. Be sure to ride Winnie the Pooh at Tokyo Disneyland, because it's completely different. It's a trackless ride system. You're in these giant honeypots, and rather than move in a linear way, you move throughout the space in the ride. Winnie the Pooh is fully animated. His mouth even moves at times. All the characters are able to articulate their mouths when they talk, and it takes you through the whole Winnie the Pooh set, and I love it. It's one of the best rides in the world.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy it. I'm not a huge Pooh fan, and I can kind of take it or leave it at the other parks. But here we actually made it a destination, and we got a Fast Pass. And it's one of those that you will get shut out of for Fast Passes if you don't get them by midday. I think we got our Fast Pass at noon, and it wasn't until almost 8 p.m. And so that's one of the things you want to keep in mind. Otherwise, plan on at least an 80-minute wait, and it's a really, really long queue.
And they have a lot of other your favorite rides that aren't dramatically different, like Star Tours The Adventure Continues, Also, Buzz Lightyear. The Pirates of the Caribbean is fairly standard. Big Thunder Mountain is fairly standard, not dramatically different. And the Jungle Cruise. It's fun to write it write it when the skipper speaks Japanese, but you still know all the jokes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing is we were actually doing it in English to ourselves, the backside of water, and all the cheesy jokes that go with writing it. And that's one of the questions that we get a lot when we go to the international parks is, am I going to have a language barrier? You know what? In Tokyo Disney Resort, everything obviously is going to be in Japanese, but a lot of people do speak English, and there's enough effort, and the signage is going to be in English. And for example, we didn't do Stitch this time, but we did it last time. They actually gave us headphones, which was the English conversion of it, the translation kit for it. This time we didn't bother. It's a totally different storyline for Stitch, but you won't find it's that big of a deal. It's actually kind of fun to ride Star Tours and see C-3PO speak Japanese.
Yeah, there's really no problem with the language in the parks. A lot of the cast members do speak English, or they're able to communicate with you through body language and pictures. It's not difficult whatsoever. One of the things that I feel like the Tokyo Disney Resort really excels at is the entertainment. The shows, the parades, the firework light shows, the projection shows at night. We saw an incredible daytime parade called Dreaming Up.
Yeah, and I would say if there was the one thing that kind of tipped me over when you came back from your trip from January was when you told me about that parade, and that you know how much I love a parade. And that was the thing that really got me. I was like, I have to go, if just to fly halfway around the world to go see a parade. And wow, am I glad that I did. It had the best of all worlds.
What did you like about it?
Well, I'm a Mary Poppins fan, and so they had a Mary Poppins float where she actually floats up in her parasol. The float actually has her moving up in the sky, and her dancers wore the most amazing costumes I've ever seen. If I could figure out how to sew, or somebody knows how to sew, they were a carousel, basically a carousel horse, but their skirts were a Mary Poppins parasol. So it's almost impossible to describe, but their skirts would spin around like they were a carousel with different carousel horses. I mean, there were so many amazing characters in that parade. They had everything from Big Hero 6 to the Fab Five, and it was just incredible. I mean, a Pegasus horse where the wings actually move. The characters and the floats were enormous too.
So much detail. Everything is incredibly detailed, from the very small to the large. And the other thing to keep in mind is with these parades, people do tend to line up early for the parades, particularly in the center area, because that's where the parade stops. So you're going to see a lot of people in the hub line up, sit down, and get early. We saw people claiming their spots in the parade up to 2 hours ahead of time.
Or even more so. The Japanese are very patient, so they have no problem. They bring their own mats and their own little padded cushions, or even some of them have folding chairs that are about 4 inches tall, and they will sit there for hours and hours on end. So waiting and queuing up, is not a big deal for them. They queue up to get into the park. Some of them, we saw lines of 100 people for some of the popcorn carts. So waiting in line is not a big deal. The one thing with the parades, unlike the U.S., is that if you go over to queue up for a parade, everybody sits down. So if actually you want to stand there, you can stand behind and you don't have any real obstructions. And that's the one thing, is when they came up and asked us if we were going to sit, and we said no, we stood in the back. So even though we were, the second time we saw the parade, we were about 5 people back, we had no problem because everybody in front of us was sitting.
So keep that in mind when it comes to entertainment, that they do tend to line up early at the Tokyo Disney Resort. There's also one of the things that amazes me is Disney's always been known for its fireworks, but now with the advent of digital projection, they've really taken it to the next level as far as the projection and light and fireworks shows on the castles each night. And Tokyo Disneyland is no exception. We saw Celebrate Tokyo Disneyland, which is probably right now my favorite fireworks projection show at any Disney park that I've ever seen.
Well, and I didn't think that Shanghai could be beat because after we saw Shanghai, I was sold. And I thought that's got to be the best there is. But frankly, they were beat by Tokyo. I don't know if this is going to continue, if it's a special edition 35th anniversary. So don't get your heart set on it. But if they do happen to have celebrated, you see it advertised, go for it. It is fabulous. What I like about it is it's not just the movies. So many of these projection shows, World of Color, or even in Shanghai, they're trying to kind of pitch the movies. Here, it was a combination of everything, but they really were focusing on the attractions, and that's the reason why we love theme parks so much.
Yeah, they played tiki room music and sound effects and phrases from different rides that we all know and love and can repeat by heart, along with digital projections, a lot of cartoons and things like that up on there, mixed with fireworks and theatrical smoke and lasers and blasts of fire. And they incorporated a lot of the turrets that are in and throughout the hub. They incorporated lights on the trees, and it was like the whole entire area was just vibrant and was part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to seeing those shows, but I've never seen it where the lights on the trees change colors to go interactive. So if there was a fiery scene, the trees would go red. And then the fact that they used so much more than just the castle for this was mind-blowing. The first time I watched it, I couldn't even focus on everything, and Jim asked me later, like, did you like the such and such? I didn't remember seeing it because I was trying to focus. So the second time, I only took a couple of pictures because I really wanted to focus on what was there. And of course, they had Small World, they had Big Thunder Mountain, they had Star Wars for Star Tours. They had so many things to see, and I could probably see it 10 more times and wouldn't catch everything.
Incredible detail, such a great show. We found that we were able to just walk up and stand right near the partner statue, and we were able to see just fine because you're elevated a bit in the park, and that was a nice vantage point. You're not the closest, but you could still see everything just fine because the projectors are so crystal clear now. You can see all the details from virtually any distance.
Yeah, that was, I'm so glad that we got to see that twice. That was one of the reasons why we actually went back on day 3 to Disneyland, is because I had to see that parade again, and I knew I wanted to see the projection show of Celebrate, hands down.
Now, when I say that Disneyland Electrical Parade, you probably have memories of Pete's Dragon and the Cheshire Cat and Honoring America and all of those things. Well, Tokyo Disneyland has taken that electrical parade and gone to the next level with dream lights. It looks sort of like the electrical parade that you know and love, but they have incorporated computer animation and LEDs and screens to really create some spectacular effects that the old parade, quite frankly, wasn't able to do.
Yeah, and the thing is, we really weren't even planning on attending it. We were kind of stalling for our Fast Pass for Winnie the Pooh. And then I heard that iconic music that I love so much. We were actually at Walt Disney World when they did their final season of the Disneyland, or the Main Street Electrical Parade. We got pictures with the signs because, of course, we were never going to see it again. Ha, ha, ha. And we knew it was being shipped to Tokyo. So the fact that I could hear that music, my head whipped around, and we kind of wandered over to peek at the parade, and then we were sold. We never ended up doing anything else.
So they had this float of the genie from Aladdin, and not only does he change colors, but he changes patterns to where he looks like different characters, whether it's Mr. Incredible or Tigger or Peter Pan. It was what a genius piece of engineering and creativity.
Well, and another float that was really similar that got my attention was when you see Captain Hook's actual ship. So they have that float, which is giant, and they use the sails on that as the screens and did the fight scenes up on the screen. Each one of these floats, as they came through, also got bigger and bigger. Some of them, I cannot believe the height on them. They were a good 2 to 3 stories tall.
So the electrical parade, they have taken it to a complete other level. They've optimized it using all of the latest technology. So be sure to check out the electrical parade when you're at Tokyo Disneyland. It was well worth it. Sometimes you go to Disney, you're like, oh yeah, it's this parade, or oh yeah, did they recycle that float from a parade previously? I swear I've seen that. This is all new and it's all spectacular. So be sure to see the parades and the light fireworks show because they do an excellent job at Tokyo Disneyland.
They have two other shows that are also there. We saw one of them, One Man's Dream, The Magic Lives On. That was also fantastic, really high quality. And I liked it because it had a nod to a lot of the Disney and Pixar characters. It's a live stage production. And then they also had Let's Party Gras, which is kind of a Mardi Gras theme, very small theater. The key that you need to keep in mind if you are going to the Tokyo Disney Resort is that a lot of these shows require tickets. And to get them, you have to get them on a lottery system. So you have to go to a kiosk, put in your park admission ticket, and see whether or not you make the lottery. This is true for parade seating, Celebrate, Tokyo Disney Light Show had it as well. A couple of the theater productions, we never seem to be able to hit it on the lottery. So in end, you end up queuing up. So you get there about 45 minutes prior.
Yeah, so if you look at your guide that they give you, the entertainment schedule, you'll see, for example, the title that says Dreaming Up, and there'll be an L next to it. That is your indication that it's a lottery. We're pretty experienced theme park people, and I didn't find this to be very clear. So go get your English or whatever language you speak. Go get your entertainment schedule and look for the L. Now in Tokyo Disneyland, it's just to the left of Space Mountain. I believe it's called like Tomorrowland City Hall or something to that effect. Yeah, Tomorrowland Hall. And you walk into Tomorrowland Hall, maybe there might be a line depending on the time of day, and there are all of these what look like bank ATMs all along the wall and standing in the room, and you take your ticket and you scan the barcodes of each ticket into the machine, and then you pick your show that you want, and the machine knows how many people are in your party. You push start, and then you find out if you won. And we did it, I don't know how many times, and never won anything. It was like going to Vegas.
Well, and you can't do it. Once you ask for that show, it tells you you cannot ask for that show time again. So then you try the next one and the next one. We had zero luck. I think I only saw one person walk by us that had the tickets. I have no idea how you win the tickets. I don't know if it's the price of your ticket, where you're staying. It could just be pure luck. We have no idea, but we just got in the habit of queuing up.
Yeah, we tried to pick later times, maybe shows that might be less popular in the showtime, and it never worked. In Tokyo Disney Sea, it's right near the gondolas in a building that's right. It's like a turquoise canopy. Yeah, turquoise canopy. You go in there and do the exact same thing for Tokyo Disneyland. And again, you make reservations for Disneyland, and Disneyland, you make reservations for the lottery at Tokyo Disney Sea. So they don't cross over. You have to do it each time in the park for each day.
It all worked out well. I mean, we queued up 45 minutes prior and we got to see what we wanted to see. So I'm all happy with it.
There are standby lines you can stand in, and you don't get a great seat. You'll be on the side, but it does work. So keep that in mind, that even if you don't win the lottery, you can still make it in as long as you get in the standby line at a decent time.
One more thing from Tokyo Disneyland, for those of you who are traditionalists, there's a blue bayou at Tokyo Disneyland. And you do. This is one helpful hint because, again, we learned the hard way. It opens up for reservations the day of. At 10:30 a.m. when they open, you go to the restaurant directly and you get in line if there is one and tell them how many people you want to dine during the day. And for us, they chose the time. It just happened to be the time we would want. But they asked how many people, and then they give you a reservation card, and you come back later for your reservation. So if you want to eat at the Blue Bayou, which looks exactly like the one in California Disneyland, then you would want to make sure you get there first thing in the morning and get a reservation.
And it's very easy to do. It's no problem. Everyone's very nice about everything. And it's a lot like it. We were very lucky. Our seats were right on the water, right up front as all of the boats went by. And we were in charge of waving at people because all the boats, everyone was very friendly. They waved to us and we would just wave back.
Yeah, it's a price fixed menu. So it's a 3-course meal. So you just choose what your appetizer, your entree, and your dessert. It's a set price. I found it to be very affordable. We've eaten at quite a few of the theme restaurants all over the world, and compared to, say, Paris, for example, this seemed like an absolute bargain. It was about $40 or $45 per person, and it was a really great meal, and they even had Mickey Mouse French rolls.
That's right, a hidden Mickey, she said on the French roll. But yeah, it's very good food. It's very fun. So if you do have the opportunity, I would definitely recommend eating at the Blue Bayou in Tokyo Disneyland. So go and explore it for yourself, and you'll understand what we're talking about. But either way, if people want to try to book this trip, how can they get in touch with you?
Carrie at stellartravel.com.
So if you're interested in going and you need someone with experience, Carrie can help you out at carrie@stellartravel.com. But either way, you can make Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Sea, and the Tokyo Disney Resort part of your best trip ever.